Gather round, dads, it's time for a tale. Hand me a book and a warm pint of ale. Let's discuss writing and the literary gods with Dan Roberts on the Dadlit Pod.
Welcome to the Dadlit Pod, the literary podcast for people who know that dads from Pittsburgh are called Yinzers, including Sam Robb, the author that I am interviewing today. Sam is a devoted husband and father of 3 teenagers. As such, he's developed a propensity for dad jokes. By the way, I didn't write this for him. This is his Amazon bio, classic dad lit bio. He's also interested in long walks, urban photography, martial arts, and self defense. Who doesn't love self defense? When he's not walking around Pittsburgh taking pictures, probably of the Tower of Knowledge. Is it called the Tower of Knowledge, Sam?
If it's the Tower of Ignorance, if you are from CMU as I am. So apologies if you're from Pitt. I understand it is called something different, but
Anyway, and making up stories to tell, he works as a software developer. Oh, yes, he also ran for president one time. We're going to talk about that. Sam is the author of A Sense of Murder, Road Mage, Volume 1, out from Celine Press this year. Sam, welcome to the pod.
thank you for having me on, man. And thank you for the introduction. That was awesome.
Well, I don't often interview presidential candidates, not because I don't want to, just
I can
because they
line up a
don't.
few more. I can get
Yeah,
the
just because they
Libertarian
don't call
presidential
back.
candidates are cheap.
Do you know how many I've this is a funny story. I've actually met quite a number of libertarian presidential candidates
Seriously.
because in my younger and more vulnerable years, as one author once said, I was a young libertarian college student in Worcester, Massachusetts,
Awesome.
and I was constantly irritating my school with complaints that they were utilizing the Student Activities Fund for all sorts of stupid things, and that such a thing should be gotten rid of, and it should be on an as needed basis. And the people that were most objectionable or who objected to that the most, no surprise, the Massachusetts Public Interest Research Group, which used the money that we paid in fees to fund lobbying efforts
Oh,
for
of course.
regulation in the state of Massachusetts. And they did that all over the country. And it was, one of these public interest groups slash NGOs that people often complain about, who take taxpayer money and take education money and DOE money and then recycle it
Oh yeah.
directly into candidate pockets,
Yep.
uh, which when people, sort of got wound up about the USA question in the United States and all of these other things that we've been facing and the ceasing of this funding, I was quite well aware of where all that money went. So tell me about the time you ran for president.
Uh, I was left in my defense. I was left unsupervised. My wife took the kids and went down to Florida to visit her parents while they were
Yeah.
down there. And I was actually doing filling out. I can't even remember what it's called now. What is the that you fill out for college students? Financial aid application. Um, all the paperwork for that, and that had to go to the school and this school and that school and whatnot. And I'm like, holy cow, I bet this is horrible. It's probably easier to run for president. At that point, I had to go and take a look and see if I actually was. I didn't want to like have this rattling around my head without it being resolved. As it turns out, it actually is very simple. It's got like three forms to fill out, and boom, there I was. I was registered as a presidential candidate, and for a while, I was honestly just like, hey, this is kind of cool. I'm doing something cool. You know, I can have some fun with it. Uh, but then I started. I'm also a Christian, pro-life,
Hmm.
and I realized that the more I thought about it, that there were no other, really no other, you know, obviously pro-life candidates running. So I had a talk with my wife at one point. I said, I think I need to do this. I think if only to run to be a voice for, for the pro-life members of the caucus, and had a good, got to meet a lot of wonderful people. Obviously, didn't get the nomination. That went to Joe Jorgensen in 2020. Um,
Yeah.
I ended up running her campaign in Western Pennsylvania, and then was Western Vice Chair for the Pennsylvania Libertarian Party for a year or two. And yeah, and it was a period of my life that was very instructive, and uh, I'm not sure that if I, looking back on it, if I knew what it was going to be like, that I would choose to do it again. But I did it, and it was fun. I learned stuff.
So much. So you ran for the president of the Libertarian Party, but on a pro-life ticket. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was honestly, I thought that I was going to meet a lot more hostility than I did. Um, as it turns out, that there is a large contingent of pro-life libertarians out there. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of support from that. I ended up working with the uh, pro-life libertarian caucus. I was the vice president of the caucus for a couple of years. Some truly wonderful folks that are still active and still working within the party. Um, even the and to be clear, even some of the folks that I met that were not supportive of the idea that abortion should be regulated or limited um, were really interesting to engage with because they were very much intellectual or like, hey, here's where I'm starting from my viewpoint, and I understand you're starting from somewhere different. Is there some place that we can at least meet? So you know there was still some throwing things around and back and forth. um, but honestly, that one of the people that I had some discussions with was a lady by the name of Ovens O'Brien, and she is now on the Judicial Committee for the Libertarian National Committee, and 100% she's a fantastic choice for that. Even and I say that even knowing that we differ on this very fundamental belief, because I was able to engage with her. I think in a very upright and honest manner, which is the way I think libertarians should be, right? Um,
Yeah, I mean, well, as you know, I had a conversation with TJ Corcoran, who's
mhm.
a free stater up in New
Yeah,
Hampshire and author of Red State Mars a couple weeks ago.
yeah,
And the interesting thing, and one of the most fun things, I mean, I've now on the Dadlit pod interviewed any number of libertarian thinking individuals, including my best friend Alexander Marriott, who writes articles for the Objectivist Standard, and Christina Dalker, who's also an objectivist and prominent in the Ayn Rand philosophical movement. And one of the most interesting things, and it came from my father in a lot of ways, Uh, and from him, it came from my uncle, who was also a libertarian, who ended up working and doing economics for the Heritage Foundation. His name is Peter Aronson, and he was at Emory, and which was the necessity of listening and engaging with political differences and political values from a position of the individual as the primary political unit,
Yeah.
which to some people is inconceivable. They cannot see the individual as the highest political unit. And fundamentally, I think that we as Americans, and this is a thing that kind of gets lost in the mix when we talk about when we go and have the retroactive explorations of American history that sort of ignore the aspiration of what the founding fathers were aiming for, which is the idea that the individual was supposed to be the highest unit, that the founding fathers presumed that an individual, once they had the right to vote, once they were instilled with their rights, was capable of rational thought processes, that they could understand and decide their best interests. And that was an aspirational ideal, but any political utopian vision is aspirational.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
I
do like
think,
to, I like to remind people, right? I mentioned earlier that I'm a Christian. I like to remind people that in an absolute perfect world, supposedly created by an absolute perfect being, right? Even if you don't believe it, that's the story. Um,
yes.
that there was almost immediately a political division. So if we can't, if you
Yes.
know, God couldn't hold it together, we're probably going to have some struggles down here too.
Yes. But I think that's interesting because it comes up a lot in dad lit. I think there's an impetus, especially amongst libertarian thinkers, to explore science fiction, to explore ideas surrounding post-apocalyptic visions, to explore fantasy visions, to do all these things, and political thrillers, all that sort of stuff. And it's definitely producing an incredible amount of creative energy. I would you say that in your experience, I don't know, I haven't been to a convention in a long time.
Uh, I'm getting ready to head down to LibertyCon down in
Yeah,
uh, Nashville, or not Nashville, Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's awesome, awesome con. If you can make your way down there someday, it's
yeah,
fantastic. But something you mentioned just really, um, I think maybe one of the reasons that you find so many libertarian thinkers and writers, particularly in the fiction space, is that when you get right down to it, fiction is very much libertarian.
yeah.
And I mean that by, hey, how do you connect with the story, with the main character or the main
Mhm.
characters, right? But they're individuals in the story that you as an individual are connecting with. There's no collectivism. There's no, oh, I'm part of this group and they're part of this group, therefore we connect. No, you're worrying about the individuals in the story. Are they going to get
Mhm.
are they going to triumph over their difficulties? Are they going to win out in the end? And regardless of what your political orientation is or what the political orientation of the characters is in the story, and that can be way wild, way different from what we have in our universe, in our world. um, you're connecting with the individual, and I think
Yeah,
that kind of brings out, I would tell everybody, you know everybody has their libertarian issues. Everybody has their issues that they just want to be left alone about, that they really wish. oh yeah, everything else, oh, the government's really good for everything, but, and for a lot of people, strangely enough, it's chickens. I don't know why it's chickens, but it seems to be chickens a lot of times. I want to have chickens in my backyard and they won't let me have chickens.
Oh
Um,
man.
so yeah, there's always a line that people uh, find themselves like, oh man, they just went a little bit too far in there. And in fiction, you can really see, right? It'll especially if it's well written, you get into somebody else's head and you see where they are, and you may never have thought of like, wow, that's yeah, that is going too far. No,
Mhm.
I don't like the way that they're treating Zartag the Destroyer here. They should be nicer to him. But yeah, he's totally justified in that genocide there.
So, Western Pennsylvania seems to be quite different from Eastern Pennsylvania. Are you a
Yes.
lifetime Western Pennsylvania resident?
Yeah. Grew up, was born in White Oak, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Pittsburgh. Uh,
Yep.
Spent a couple of years out in California when I was in the Navy, but came back here because of family. So been here pretty much all my life.
Yeah, so you're familiar with six packs and dogs.
Six packs and dogs. Okay, you're going to have, no, I'm not. So what
You've
am I
never been
missing
to
here?
six packs and dogs? So, believe it or not, I've spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh,
Okay.
many times over. And there is a terrific, it, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to advertise something that's not your
No,
book.
no, no. Go, go, go.
There is a hot dog franchise called Six Packs, PAX, and Dogs,
Oh, goodness.
DAWGS, which also sells like a zillion beers, and they're like a
Mhm.
fancy hot dog counter. And they have them in Monroeville, and they have them in East Pittsburgh. And
Okay.
it's one of
How
my
did I
favorite
miss
places to
this?
go. It's one of my favorite places to go. I love
I
it.
am absolutely going to have to go look, man. That
Yes,
sounds awesome.
a year after me and my wife got married, I drove her out to Pittsburgh for our anniversary, which is an insane thing to do to a woman. But she loves um, quirky restaurant culture. I'm not going to say she's a
Okay.
foodie. What she's actually more
Right.
interested is kind of like quirky, singular restaurant culture. And so for us, I brought her out there. We went to, we went on an adventure. We went to Six Packs and Dogs. We went to, all these really terrific,
Nice.
very reasonably priced, lovely restaurants around the Pittsburgh area. And in a lot of ways, I compare it to like sort of a Midwestern city experience because when you go there, um, from like a big East town like New York or New Jersey or Massachusetts or DC, you're just shocked at what a great meal you can get for so little. It's like dirt cheap
Oh my goodness.
to
And
go there.
half the time you've got someone preparing it for you who has been there for 40 years,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
it's their little restaurant. There was a place I used to work downtown, and literally right next door was a gyro shop.
yeah,
And oh my goodness, I almost died. I almost had a heart attack. I ate there so much. Just
yeah.
plain gyros, side of fries, greasy, the most delicious thing in the world. And there's a ton of places like that all over.
Yeah, I mean, if this is, and I hope you don't mind us talking about this. I
No,
bring
no,
this up
no.
because you're a Yinzer, and I love to sing the praises of like hidden places where you can bring your family if you're a dad and like really have a good time. And Pittsburgh is just one of those places. I
Oh yeah.
mean, they have off-Broadway shows. You got three professional teams. You've got the National Aviary, which is so
Oh yeah.
fun. And the other thing is, you have this very dynamic, pseudo Gothic, Germanic, weird architecture that doesn't make any sense and doesn't occur anywhere else in the country, except maybe Chicago, but not even really, other than Pittsburgh. I love it out there.
It's awesome. I do love it. I do love the
Yes.
city. I started walking for my health. I
Hmm.
quit nicotine and I needed, uh, there are times when I just needed to get out of the office. So we got some really good
Hmm.
river trails and I would go for a walk and,
So you didn't
in the
take
off.
up eating to
No,
compensate
no. Oh
for
my goodness.
nicotine.
I would have, I did for a while. I put on like 20 pounds. Um, the group
You
I was
didn't.
in, the support group is like you can stuff anything in your face as long as it's not nicotine, you're good. So
Yeah.
I ate a lot of cake, but then I realized I couldn't keep doing that and started walking. And I found some bits of the city that were just like, holy cow! I never knew this was here,
Oh yeah.
and this is fascinating. And these little neighborhoods and these little places that actually turned into my wife and I will still go on day trips to places around Pittsburgh, East Brady, out to West Virginia or Ohio, and just to spend the day going for a walk around some new town
Hmm.
that we've never been to.
Forgive me. Got a thing in my eye. You've touched me with your Pittsburgh talk. No, I'm
Yinzer
my
making me cry and act.
Yinzer. I'm just thinking about down under that hill, getting drunk. It's so much fun. I've been to football games there, and it's just the best. Um, and my current book that I'm writing is just a little bit west of there. It's suburb of Cleveland book.
Mhm.
So a
Oh,
lot of
very cool.
Youngstown talk, a lot of
Okay.
remarks about that eastern part of Ohio that
Mhm.
touches western Pennsylvania and how that all figures in. I'm a big Rust Belt guy. I'll be honest with you. I love it out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I don't
We
think
we went.
people realize how great it is. They don't
Oh
get it.
no, it's awesome. It
Yeah.
really is. I think one of the friendliest places I've been, um,
Hmm.
and between Navy and travel and whatnot, I've been a lot of places. Um, One of the few places that I think people were quite as friendly was San Diego. Between San Diego and Pittsburgh, I'd be hard pressed.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
could live either place, but uh,
what
the
do the
people
people
were
in
just.
San Diego have to complain about? Nothing.
Oh no, that's easy mode for them, right? We have the lake effect snow and the blistering heat, and
Yeah.
so Pittsburgh people, I guess, are just a little bit nicer.
Yes. Well, tell me, what inspires a software engineer living in Western Pennsylvania, other than the sight of the three rivers combining, to sit down and write books?
um, I've always wanted to, even when I
Really?
was a kid. Yeah, I grew up reading. My dad was a big science fiction fantasy fan. Grew up
Hmm.
reading alternate history and science fiction and Isaac Asimov and uh, Larry Niven, all that stuff. Um, and kind of did a little bit of writing, put it to the side. Went off to school. You know, got through college, went into the Navy for a couple of years. Came back to Pittsburgh, started doing software development, and then I reached the point where I was in my uh, late 40s, and I realized if I'm going to do this, I need to do it. So actually, this guy by the name of Larry Correa, and he's a New York Times winning, author, fantastic guy too. Um,
Yep.
and
Monster Hunters
met,
International,
yeah,
American
yeah,
Paladin.
Just got my American Paladin book in
Oh,
yesterday, by the
did
way.
you get it? Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I'm intimidated to reach out to him. I bet he would come on the show in a second,
oh,
but I'm a
do it.
little
Yeah.
hesitant. I'm a little hesitant.
Um, but he's a fantastic guy. He's a great guy. And when I was reading his blog, one of the things he talked about is, writing being a business, and you need to sit down and put button chair, hands on keyboard if you're going to
Mm,
write. And if you're going to write, you have to write. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and do that back when NaNoWriMo was still a thing, and I was going to
yep.
try and write 50,000 words and just get it out. And I did that and put it aside and put it, digitally, put it in a trunk and lock the key. I may come back to it someday, but that was good enough that I was like, oh, I can do this. And when a friend of mine on a Facebook group was he was publishing an anthology of urban fantasy. I said, oh, I've got a story for it. I wrote a story for a contest, and I can go ahead and send this to you if you'd like. You could take a look at it. And he thought it was good enough that he, pulled it into this anthology called uh, oh man, I want to say Street Magic, but Street Magic was the one from Lynn Worthen. Um, I'm horrible. I can't even remember
You've
the
blown
name of
it.
it
We're
now.
never going to be able to sell it
My brain is Swiss cheese. It's sitting right back here. But it'll come to me in a little bit. But that was my first published story. And um, at that point, I was like, wow, I guess I can do this. And started doing some short stories, published them with a place called Raconteur Press, a couple of other places. I've published with Canon Publishing, Celine Publishing, Celine Press. Did a Car Wars story for Steve Jackson Games, which was really, really awesome. Um, and I've got another one coming out with Alexander McCrease for his Annals of the Oran Empire, which is based on the uh, you know Adventurers Conquer Kings gaming system that he does. Um, uh, Street Magic. No, Supernatural Streets. That was it. That was the first
Mm.
one. Sorry, Rob. It just brain went. Um, but yeah, and a lot of that came from my time in, like I said, in Pittsburgh, walking around and just seeing things. I found out really quickly. I go for a walk in my first hour. Or my first mile. I would be thinking about whatever it was that was on my mind, work or politics or whatever. The next mile, I would kind of like zone out and be like, oh, my brain has reset. And then that third mile on, um, I would start noticing things and be like, that's weird. Why is that there? How is that?
Mm.
What is that? Why is there a statue on the corner of this building that I've never noticed? What does this bit of graffiti mean? Um, I never noticed that this restaurant has a door, like a side door, a very narrow side door with a tentacle for a handle. I wonder where that
I've been to
goes.
that restaurant.
And yeah, taco. You know
Yep,
exactly what I'm
taco.
talking about.
Yep.
And you start thinking about these things, and my brain would wander all over the place, and I'd find myself coming up with these ideas, and I'm like, I got to write
Mm.
these down. So my wife encouraged me. She said that I swore a lot less when I was doing writing than when I was doing politics. So it improves your mental health, it improves your physical health, and you have an entertaining side job to take care of. So I guess it worked
It
out.
it's so funny because that basically just describes very similarly how I experience this sort of writing
Hmm.
experience, which is I got to a point where I was just like, huh, I have all these stories inside of me. I'm a 40-year-old
Yeah.
man. I think a big part of it is that the fear goes away by then, right?
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. You get to the point where
Like,
you're like, oh, I might as well. I've tried so many
like,
other things.
yeah, like the fear that if I put something down in paper, it'll be a waste of time or it won't live up to something or any of those things. You realize, oh, I've wasted innumerable hours of time.
Oh
Things
yeah.
that came to nothing at this point. And so I might as well do this.
Yep. There was there's a point where I looked at my hours played on World of Warcraft Armory, and I was like,
Oh my God. That's
yeah,
very,
I can spend some time writing.
yes. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've replayed what Morrowind, replayed Elder Scrolls 3, oh, I used to play Civ 2 for
Yeah.
hours,
Oh
just for
yeah.
hours.
I had a not even the game, just the demo of Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri at one point.
Yeah.
And I played that into the ground. I mean, you could see the zeros and ones burned into the computer. I played it so much.
Yeah, which is funny because I've thought about this and I've thought about and commented on it recently. The contemporary male culture of reading and writing, right? So the idea that video games serve male needs in a way that I don't think anything else has. I mean, it's astonishing how much time and energy, particularly young men, pour
Mhm.
into video games. And to a certain extent, as you and I have just described, when you get to a point, you're just like, well, man, I wish I'd put that into reading, or I wish I'd put that into writing, or I wish I'd put that into learning something. And I think it just takes maturity to get to the point where you're just like, oh, well, now I'm ready to be myself and I'm ready to do something for myself.
Yeah.
And maybe it's maturity, maybe it's um, the sort of abandonment of fear. But so many dads that I talk to have similar experiences to you and I. Uh,
There's, you know what? There's something though. Um, one, a lot of times I think you find guys playing video games that allow them to play with other men, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, so a friend of mine uh, that I work with at a nonprofit, she said that women bond face to face, men bond side to side, doing
Hmm.
things. So having those raids or doing those quests or playing on a team really is kind of like the quintessential male bonding. But the other thing that I think that you look at that and you think, okay, wow, I wish I had spent that 1,000 hours or 10 years or whatever doing something else.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If you think about it, what you've been doing, right? Particularly talking about a writer, you've spent, oh my goodness, I spent 10 years playing video games. Now you spent 10 years exploring story,
Yeah.
telling your own stories. I had my own backstory in my head for all my characters and why they did this and what they wanted, and
Hmm.
I played. There are certain quests that I would not do because the story stunk. I didn't like the way that things turned out, and you did that character dirty and whatnot. Um, but your basic, you know, video games in particular give you the chance to do all this different kinds of exploration of story and storytelling that you can look at it as not like, oh, I wasted 10 years playing video games. I spent 10 years studying story before
Mhm.
I found myself ready to take up the pen. And now, now I'm ready to tell. And I think there's something to be said for that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the sort of thing that you couldn't really get, uh, you know, even 50, 100 years ago, right? If you wanted to experience strange alien cultures, you would have to, make your fortune and then travel the world as an explorer or something. And now you can just fire up your laptop at the end of the day and spend, 3 hours exploring, what is it, a Halo ring, or, some disc world or something. So,
Well, let's just say I've uh, given a read to A Sense of Murder. There are some video game elements to it in the
probably, yeah.
the sort of magical assessment, in that it has a rational magical assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking with my wife about that this morning about it. And it's interesting because my urban fantasy novel set in Pittsburgh, Sigils, the magic system is almost non-existent. It's very loose. Uh,
Hmm.
and I can get away with that because none of my main characters or viewpoint characters are the ones using magic. So
Yeah.
it's something they don't know the rules. They don't know how things work. They have to find things out, but it's an obstacle for them to overcome.
Hmm.
I had to be more exact in Sense of Murder because the Kellen, the main character, he actually has a magical talent, and I had to define, okay, how does it work? What are the limits? And then make sure that I didn't screw things up and do things.
Well,
That was the worst part.
it's interesting because I never put a lot of thought into magical systems until I met DJ Butler. And he
Yes.
explained to me that there are different magical systems. And then I came up with, or I have sort of two outlines for fantasy horror novels. And I was like, well, if I have a magical system in these fantasy horror novels, what is it? Like, what are the rules? And I was thinking about the show Bodies, or the not Bodies, Weapons,
Right, right,
movie
right.
Weapons, yes, which has a magical system. And I came up with one of them is that memory is carried through water,
Okay.
is one of them. And then the other one, which is that if you take a sacred object, spill a sacrifice's blood upon it, and burn it, then you open a sort of thin place to another
Okay.
world, to the sort of afterlife. And I thought I put a lot of like thought into that. Like, how do you sort of conceive of a magical system? So your book, um, A Sense of Murder,
Mhm.
is a mystery where
Yeah.
your main character is a sort of Ronin who is he a Ronin? I think he's sort of a lawman, a traveling
He
medieval
is.
lawman.
Yeah.
And back in the day, traveling medieval lawmen would go to town and
Yep.
help, resolve disputes because the town itself could not support a single person. And your traveling medieval lawman has sort of a mysterious power where he's able to detect emotional states. And they appear to him as almost clouds or auras
Yes.
with different colors that come with different sort of emotional responses. uh, which is a really interesting way to build a fantasy world. Would you mind just sort of like describing the plot and talking about a sense of murder beyond that?
Not at all. Um, as you know, authors always love to talk about. No, sometimes we're like,
Authors
I
love.
wrote a book.
Believe it or not, they
Um,
love to talk about it. They cannot always articulate what is going on in their books.
my fingertips and my mouth have entirely different vocabularies.
Yeah, yes.
Um, no, Sense of Murder is the main character is Kellen, the lawman that you mentioned is kind of a circuit judge, and he does have a talent for seeing the truth or seeing emotional states that lets him read people. Um, he ends up paired up with a imperial magus by the name of Prospero, who was sent out to his area neck of the woods because uh, some seers said that, hey, yeah, there's someone with this particular gift of telling truth out this way. So Kellen has a choice to make. He can either admit who he is, in which case he's probably going to be, not probably, absolutely going to be impressed into the imperial service and taken away from everything that he knows and all the people that he has pledged to protect. Or he can try his best to hide it. And he figures, okay, well, I'll just try and hide it. How long can I end up shackled with this guy? And that is before they start running into murders.
Mhm.
Series of murders where children have been killed, leads to a demon. They defeat the demon, but then there's a question of who summoned him, and they start chasing the clues, which leads them into port city of Victor de Rea, where they get embroiled in imperial politics, saddled with a young seer who is supposed to keep an eye on them uh, because again of imperial politics. Um, Try and solve the murder, and everything is not quite what it seems. There's pirates and zombies and madmen and criminal organizations and all sorts of fun. So that's it in a
Yes.
nutshell.
Yes. So I'm trying to think of what a comparable sort of example would be, or a similar. It reminds me of The Witcher in a lot of ways.
Well, you know what? I have never read the Witcher book. I've seen some of the
Yeah,
Witcher shows. I've never read any of the Witcher books. But
yeah.
from folks that have, I understand they're great. So fantastic. I'm happy to be compared to them.
So, what sort of, when you sat down and you went from a modern Pittsburgh urban magical experience with your previous books, and you decided to take it back and to go back into the traditional realm of sort of the pre-electrical, pre-steam age. Uh, well, I'll say pre-gunpowder age um, that Tolkien set out as kind of the philosophical standard of uh, of fantasy experience. What what inspired you to go that far back with a man walking around Pittsburgh?
Oh man, that actually came even before that. Um,
Really?
yeah, the this goes back. I mentioned I'd wanted to write even from a very young age. Um, the character of Prospero was one that I wrote about in high school. I had a
Hmm.
notebook that I used to keep, and I'd sketch ideas and horrible poems, and all sorts of stuff in there. Um, and I had the idea of it was more of a science fiction story, but this uh, individual who's very he's very set. Kind of, I don't want to say set in his ways, but he has his code of ethics, his code of honor, and he lives by it in a world where things don't always line up 100% with what he thinks is right. So I kind of that character kind of has grown over the years, and that really ended up in the aspect of Prospero in this story. He's a man that does not he serves the empire, but does not always agree with what's going on and how it is run. Um, in some cases, I think, story wise, right, I can look at it and say yes, he has very good reason to have issues with this,
Yes.
just like Kellen would. And so some things that the two of them would very much agree on, other things they would very clearly differ on. So one of the things that as I thought about Prospero and I thought about Kellen and these two very different individuals, I knew I wanted to tell a story about them, but I had no idea how they met.
Mhm.
And I wrote the first part of uh, Sense of Murder was initially novella called Bluest Sky, Blackest Sin that went to John Holmes at Canon Publishing, and was published in one of their collections, and so that was starting to tell the story. And after I sent that to John, I ran into him at LibertyCon, and he said, "So when am I getting a novel?" Um, which I found out later is really that's kind of John's modus operandi. He finds something he likes and then he corners and says, "When am I going to get a novel?" Um, so I said, "Okay, I guess I'm going to write a novel for you," and that let me explore the relationship between the two of them. Some of the tensions between the need for secrecy and privacy, and the need for the need for service. um, there very much is, and I didn't even realize that I until afterwards and sitting down and looking back at it. Um, there's a uh, very obvious theme, probably a little strange for a libertarian, right? Um,
A
no, no,
duty to
I mean this.
community. Yes.
There's a theme of duty and subservience, right? The need to put yourself under someone else's authority, um, uh, and then the danger that comes from not having any checks on you. So,
Mhm.
uh, it wasn't until after I finished writing that I'm like, oh wow, this is a very libertarian and Christian novel. So I'm glad for that. It does reflect a lot of my beliefs and a lot of my tensions in trying to reconcile those two. And I'm really happy the way it turned out. In particular, I had somebody tell me that they really enjoyed the fact that not only the main characters but the antagonists had very clear motivations and reasons for behaving the way they did. And
Mhm.
once, even if it wasn't clear immediately, by the end of it, you understand why everybody acted the way they did. And to me, that's really the hallmark for in particular, right? I was going for the hallmark of I think of a really good villain is, if you put me in that place, would I really have made any different decisions? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think, I think I could say yes. In this case, I wouldn't have been, murdering people, but you could also see how well someone would want to do that and that would make sense to them. So, um,
Well,
yeah.
that's, I mean, I think about villains, and I actually really like to write foils. My favorite thing is to write foils, is to take my main character and to put them up against someone who reflects their weaknesses or
Mhm.
makes them feel inadequate. And that's so much fun. uh,
I will snap you
villains,
like a little glow
yeah,
stick and
yeah.
shake you. Yes.
Villains to me, villains to me are so delightful, because they choose they choose self, I think, more than anyone. is
Yes.
this sort of idea and this willingness. And you talk about the concept of uh, sort of Christianity and libertarianism. And one of the areas where those two meet is sort of an idea where the imposition of self need is inappropriate on others, even if the benefit is great, right?
Yeah.
Even if your own perceived benefit is great. And just I think it's a great way if you want to establish or create a villain is just to present a person who really wants something and where you can really sympathize with their want, but they are prepared to get it at the expense of others.
Yes.
And that is a terrific way to construct a villain.
Very relatable. Like I said, you look at them and you're like,
Oh,
man,
yeah.
would I do something like that if my daughter was threatened? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Um, but yeah, it's that kind of singular, I'm going to get what I want, regardless of how it affects or hurts others. Um,
Yes.
even if it's a good, even if it's something good that they want.
Yeah,
Um,
villains have this terrific advantage of action, right? I'm trying
yeah,
to think of a villain who's a great villain because they don't do something.
we avoid those, I think, because those are too close to real life. They really are, right? The insurance company that doesn't do
Yes.
something or doesn't provide health care, or the
Yeah.
person who turns and walks away. Um, I think maybe a little too close. But yeah, I can't think of.
I'm trying to think of a great villain who doesn't act or who's presented with this moment where they know that if they do something, that it will benefit others and detract from themselves. And I can't think of someone in the sort of literary tradition uh, who does that. I can think of heroes and heroines in the literary tradition who see other people who do things for them, not realizing. I mean, Elizabeth Bennet is a perfect example of a heroine in the literary tradition whose general behavior is very standoffish. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm prideful, I'm not going to do this, this isn't, and who has opportunities to do things and then doesn't do them. And then the hero of that story is actually Darcy, who does it
Mhm.
for her
Yeah,
without consulting her, and who is the villain in her eyes, but is actually the one who makes the decisions,
yeah.
which is
Well,
interesting.
if you think about it, right? If you've got a situation and life is good, or
Yes,
life is bad, but life is at a certain point, it's the villain that comes along that perturbs it, right? That makes things
yes,
worse. So the hero, at least in some sense, is always reacting to this change from whatever the steady state is. So yeah, the villain has to be active, because otherwise, uh, you're walking down the street and Clark Kent sees Lex Luthor and goes, "Morning, sir," or "Morning, Mr. Reporter," and they just go on their way,
yeah, they
right?
just go on their
Yeah.
way.
Lex Luthor has to punch a kitten or something in order to make the
Yes.
story move. Um, so you kind of have to give the your villain a really good motivation for why they're going to, get up in the morning, make
Disrupt,
that cup
yes,
of coffee, and go out and
and
get what they
disrupt.
want. Yep.
Interesting. Well, pitch the novel to the dad literati. Convince them that this is the way to go. Go out and get it. Uh, go out and pick it up.
This is a sense of murder at its core is a buddy cop story, but it's about two
True.
men that are very much alike, and need to learn how to interact with each other and how to respect one another. I think that's something that is missing in a lot of stories these days. We have a lot of snark. We have a lot of, uh, uh, kind of like, show me, make me, whatever sort of attitude. Um, this is much more about, uh, two men, and later on, three people working together to, make the world better in a very tangible way. Um, Being willing to stand up and face not only great danger but great evil together, and rely on each other in a way that, uh, honestly, um, I think a lot of modern fiction lacks. And I think that one of the reasons that I was able to accomplish that is because I leaned hard, like I said, I leaned hard into Christian themes. The setting itself is uh, an alternate world, multiverse sort of thing, where God and angels and Satan and demons are all very real, and you see that almost immediately in the story. Um, and it's an exploration of exactly, along with those terms of exactly, how would you react? How would you live your life if you knew that, this was the situation, and that, you're, not only that, your actions were being uh, weighed, right? But your soul itself was being, kind of examined, in terms of motives, and whether you're being truthful and honest even with yourself. So there you go. I didn't say anything about the zombies. I didn't say anything about the pirates. I didn't say anything about all the excellent stuff that is wrapped around this really amazing core that you as a dad really want to read, so that you
Yes.
and your son can at some point sit down and talk it over and say, "Wow, this was a great story. I'm waiting for the Netflix adaptation."
You could have just said zombies and pirates. There are zombies and
Not
pirates.
only zombies and pirates, zombie pirates.
Zombie pirates.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a hint. That's a spoiler. If you read it, you're going to get to a certain part, and you're going to go, "Oh, this is where it comes."
Yes. Well, Sam, thank you so much for coming on the Dad Led Pod, and for just being an interesting dude, man.
Thank you for having me on. This has been
When
a
are you
lot of
gonna
fun.
be? I've never had a presidential candidate on the Dad Led Pod. I should have wore a tie.
No, no, no. We're very informal here. Look, I'm wearing my 42 t-shirt, Life, the Universe, and Everything. So
Nice. Well, I'll say this. Go out and get A Sense of Murder, Road Mage, Volume 1 by Sam Robb from Celine Press. And, support a Yinzer. So you can get
help
some
me go out and
permit.
get a dog.
Yeah, he can get a
I need to go
dog.
buy a hot dog now, so
Yes,
you're
and a
helping me.
Permanente Brothers sandwich with fries.
Yes.
Sam, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, man.
Our time together has come to an
There
end.
we go.
It's time to return to your wife, kids, and friends. It's time to pick up those books you forgot while you wait for the next Dad Lit Pod.